this video, but we need to be connected to the internet, so that speaks to our problem with technology. The other thing is that within a week or two, we are expecting the governor to release what's called a readiness report. But this has been a year-long effort by the governor. Many subcommittees have been set up. And actually, there are many questions about, or speculation as to what's going to be in this report. And I think that will also drive, to some extent, the revisioning of our own strategic plan here. So, with the failure of our technology and the inability to connect to the internet, it might be a good thing to be able to postpone this for one more meeting. So,
I wanted to add, not 100% relevant, there's an interesting story in yesterday's Globe magazine about, and it kind of ties into educating the whole child about how, can't we just let them be kids, where you have kids at 13 years old being told, you got to figure out at 13 what you want to be when are you going to be an engineer, are you going to be a plumber? That's too early. We've got to, as Mr. Bauer said earlier, we've got to look at the enrichment side of things and that whole child thing. And yes, we do have to focus on the core elements of an education. We know that. But every kid, every student isn't going to be a star in math or a star in science or a star in English or language arts. They might be a star in music. They might be a star in sports, and just get by in the other things. And we have to work with that.
And you can't label kids at age 13
Right,
either.
exactly.
They haven't done exploring, and
Right.
if you limit the areas they can explore in, you may never find what they were meant to excel at.
well, I am troubled because I do see that in community after community across this country, there is a shift away from really focusing on what is fundamental to the education of the student, to focusing on making sure that every student is proficient in math and in literacy. And yes, those are very important goals, but it shouldn't be the end all. And I think we need to step back and so as we look at revising this strategic plan, whether it means setting out on a new mission, a new direction, and ultimately a new action plan, I'm hopeful that this whole child initiative will serve as the basis for doing that. In the packet of material that I provided to you, you can see the number of resources that are available online, including the community conversation piece. There's actually also a section for high school students to involve high school students, because they're the future. What will their needs be? And so what I see in the fall would be a series of structured forums to invite, whether it's students or community members in, to talk about what they'd like to see here in North Reading. But we'll make sure that internet connection is up and running, and I promise we'll show that at the next meeting.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Thank you, David. So next meeting, bring the popcorn for the movie.
It's only 4 minutes.
Oh, how long?
Short.
Oh, okay. How long? 4 minutes.
4.5. 26.
Okay, routine matters. Bills and payrolls, I believe, are signed. Minutes, regular meeting from April 14th, 2008. I read through them. I didn't find anything.
Me either. Move to approve as written. Second.
Should we call Steve?
No, I gave them a thorough scrubbing.
Was that Nicole is an editor, right, Nicole?
Yeah.
Yes. We're waiting on you. Yeah.
So we have a motion by Mrs. Davis, second by Mrs. Baca for the April 14th regular meeting minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? One abstention, Mr. Bowers. And then we have the executive session from April 14th. David, I actually have just 2 typographical errors that I'll pass over to you.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else had anything, but other than that, that, they were fine. So unless anybody has anything else, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the executive session
As amended.
meetings on April 14th.
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? None, abstained? One. Okay. Just got lost.
Budget planning.
Budget update. Carl, you have an update for us on the,
Yes, I do. There must have been blue paper in the photocopy.
I was gonna say that. I thought this usually is what happens at the end of the year, isn't it? We start seeing different colored paper.
Yeah, well, actually, there is truth to that. They have an excess of colored paper.
I do know that my son's middle school progress reports came home yesterday, and I think each one was a different color.
From the middle school?
Yes.
Well, that's proof's in the pudding there. So you have in front of you the April budget report. At this stage of the fiscal year, of course, that's 10 months out of 12. Departments, well, I'll begin with the comments on payroll. At this stage, payroll is very easy to predict, of course. So I'm predicting that our salary accounts will end up in the black. The detail is shown on the third page of the blue budget handout. Our various employee lines have come in pretty much as predicted. As you see the balances, they'll add up to, at this stage, about $30,000 on the black. However, on the expense side, we're showing about, in aggregate, $20,000 of unencumbered funds. That will probably move below zero because we know that the months of May and June, there's still some expenses to be had. We're making every effort now to project them and encumber those expenses that we see that we will need for the rest of the year. We are through the heating season, so the big spikes in natural gas that we saw in April won't hurt us too much because the degree days are low. But we're going to be able to have surpluses in quite a few of our accounts, including legal services, which has been we've had a year where we've had very low legal services, like legal costs on average compared to other years. Even utilities, even with the costs of fuel, I think the management that we do of our heating is such that we will see surpluses there. We will see surpluses in our unemployment accounts because we have had very little unemployment costs this year. We're a self-funding unemployment agency, so we pay dollar for dollar any costs there. In summary, I'm confident we'll end the year okay. We're going to be very close in terms of the special education deficits. We've, as the committee knows, briefly to repeat, we had several move-ins that we've been struggling to absorb the tuition costs. The move-ins, it's not unusual for one student to cost the committee anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 with tuition and transportation added together. We also had those legal judgments that we started the year with. That was July 1, that we learned of those, day one of the fiscal year. So we've been struggling to pare down those deficits, and we're down to about $30,000 at this point. We did make a point of mentioning this to the Finance Planning Committee last Wednesday, and shared with them, as we have been all year, the status of our deficits. And two of the outcomes were, first, that I'll stay in close touch with the Finance Committee Chair over this issue, so she knows where we stand. And it appears that we may have to go to the Finance Committee at the end of June for a reserve fund transfer, should this be borne out as it stands now. But it also appeared that the Finance Committee, because we've been very communicative about this issue, while they're not real pleased about it, they understand it, and there are no surprises. So I'll know a lot more about the exact amount in about a month. But this will be the first year in at least 8 that we've had to go to the Finance Committee for a year-end deficit. That's never happened before. We've gone to the Finance Committee for other reasons, but never a year-end deficit. And it's actually pretty remarkable that we brought it down this far, given where we started, so. So that's my budget report. Any questions? Be happy to answer them.
I guess the one concern I have, although I think because at least to date, you've done a very good job, especially in terms of the natural gas prices, but that could spike next year, and but there's nothing we can do about it, obviously. We're locked into what our budget is, but I guess that's my one concern is the
Yeah.
energy costs.
That's, as you know, I track the daily NYMEX prices
Right.
because we're now floating, meaning that we're not locked into an actual gas contract right now. Even though April prices are very high, that's not too much of a problem because the costs are very low. What's really alarming is generally the 4 lowest months of the year for natural gas prices are the knee months, meaning the months where you're not either heating or chilling.
Right.
Those are the low demand months, since natural gas is a supply-demand commodity. So April and May tend to be low months, as are September and October. So we were waiting for April and May to lock in, and it's very unusual. The prices have actually gone up. The prices in April for natural gas are the highest they've been all year, and that's historically unusual. In fact, the natural gas prices, the only period in our history when natural gas prices have been higher was during the Hurricane Katrina month. Natural gas prices, because of all of the platforms being damaged, went down. So I have some concerns that we're floating now, and we're paying spot prices on a daily basis. But I don't think, well, famous last words, it's like your auto gas. If you could lock in at $3.75 a gallon for auto gas, would you?
I don't know.
I mean, it's the same kind of question. I mean, you think, well, they can't be this bad, but the next day they are.
Right.
For a week.
Right.
So we have an advisor, though, that helps us through these, with these decisions.
How's the electricity costs been? Pretty stable?
Well, they are affected, there's a fuel charge
Right.
added to our electricity. The fact that we buy our electricity from Reading Municipal Light Department is actually very good news because it's significantly less than private utilities, significantly. So even though electricity may be up 10% this year, it's 10% higher than it used to be, but it's still probably almost 50% lower than what you would pay for from a private utility. So, so the costs are up about 10% because of the fuel surcharge, the coal and the gas, it gets added to your monthly electricity bill.
Any questions on the 2008 budget? Thanks, Carl. Next, David, anything on staffing or bids and donations?
No.
Subcommittee updates?
We typically have, but I did want to report that through our work on the Youth at Risk Committee, the police department, the North Reading Police Department held a forum last week on the drug and alcohol. It was one of the first forums held in the new community room at the police station. They put it on around prom season, so it was well attended. There were maybe 18 parents in attendance, and I think they were planning on 20. And it was run by the 3 officers that participate with the Youth at Risk, Mike LeBlanc, Tom Hatch, and Kevin Donnelly. They've gone through the school officer training program, and it was just a wonderful forum. One of the forums was on drugs, one was on teen drinking, and the other one spoke to parents' responsibilities when they host parties in their homes. There were some new faces in the group because we do a couple of these throughout the years, so it was nice to see new faces, and people were very comfortable asking questions, which is always the important part of those kind of forums, to have an open dialogue. And I just can't speak enough of the cooperative effort we have with these police officers, and again, that the community needs to realize that the school resource officers are funded through the police department, so that any impact to their budget impacts their ability to address the needs of our teenagers. And we need more of these forums, not less. So it was just a nice way to